It's not an NBA postseason without a bit of drama, controversy, and of course, Draymond Green. But in Game 7 between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets, the officiating crew delivered a moment that had the entire Chase Center and the basketball world scratching their heads. With 1:39 left in the first half of a high-stakes, win-or-go-home matchup, the tension in the building was already thick. The Warriors were leading, momentum swinging their way, and Draymond Green, one of the most polarizing and passionate players in NBA history, was right in the thick of it, as usual. Then came the play that ignited confusion, controversy, and outrage, all in one moment. Green stood at the top of the arc, ball in hand, scanning for options. Like a quarterback reading the defense, he was waiting for a cutting teammate, keeping his pivot steady. That's when Rockets guard Fred VanVleet made his move, reaching in and knocking the ball loose. It was a clean strip, or so it seemed, until VanVleet made contact. The whistle blew. Foul on VanVleet. But the moment didn't end there. As Green's arm swung in the aftermath of the reach-in, his left hand caught VanVleet squarely on the neck. Then, as if to punctuate the encounter, Green appeared to extend his arm, sending VanVleet tumbling backward. The crowd erupted, some in shock, others in anger. Players paused, coaches stepped forward, and the referees quickly signaled for an official review. Here it comes, fans thought. Another Draymond Green flagrant. The kind of call that could shift the narrative of a tightly contested Game 7. After all, the replay was clear. The contact to VanVleet's neck seemed excessive and unnecessary, the very language the NBA uses in its definition of a flagrant foul. The criteria appeared to be met. But then, in a twist that would fuel hours of sports radio debate and social media backlash, the officials returned from the monitor with a surprising verdict. Technical foul on Green. Not a flagrant. Why? Because the contact occurred after the whistle had blown. Cue the confusion. From courtside analysts to fans watching at home, no one seemed quite sure how the ruling made sense. Wasn't excessive contact still excessive, regardless of when it occurred? Didn't intent, or lack thereof, matter less than outcome? Why did it feel like this call contradicted everything we've seen in recent seasons? This wasn't the first time in the series that Green found himself in the center of an officiating storm. Back in Game 4, the Warriors' defensive anchor was involved in a fiery exchange with Rockets forward Tari Eason. That time, Green did receive a flagrant foul, despite the fact that many argued the contact was similar, if not less severe, than what occurred in Game 7. That earlier incident nearly led to an ejection. Green had already been issued a technical, and another one would have sent him to the locker room early. Instead, the officials gave him a flagrant, avoiding the ejection, but raising eyebrows in the process. Now, just a few games later, a very similar situation had yielded a completely different ruling. The inconsistency wasn't just noticeable, it was glaring. San Francisco Standard reporter Danny Emmerman summed up the collective headshake on social media, writing, "The line between technical and flagrant fouls has never been more blurred." NBA reporter Nate Duncan didn't hold back either, suggesting that if Sunday's Game 7 call was correct, then the Game 4 flagrant was objectively worse in terms of officiating judgment. For Green, the moment could have derailed what had been a strong showing. But if there's one thing Draymond Green has shown us time and again, it's that controversy fuels him. Like a fire stoked by wind, Green seemed to gather even more energy after the call. By the end of the first half, the stat line told a story of resilience. Green had 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Classic Draymond. The Warriors led 51-39, riding a wave of controlled chaos, passion, and aggressive defense. The building buzzed with intensity, and despite the officiating circus, Golden State held the reins. But make no mistake, the officiating crew's decision will be talked about long after this series is over. It wasn't just a questionable call. It was a moment that exposed a deeper issue with how the NBA handles contact fouls involving star players and volatile personalities. When does a foul become a flagrant? When does a reaction cross the line into excessive? And perhaps most critically, why does it feel like the answer depends on who commits the foul? Draymond Green is no stranger to the NBA's gray areas. He's made a career out of pushing the line, emotionally, physically, and psychologically. Sometimes he crosses it. Sometimes he toes it perfectly. But moments like this beg the question, has the league created a rulebook that's flexible to a fault? In an era of slow-motion replays, frame-by-frame analysis, and mic'd-up referees, fan football